Yep. Hey everybody, Drew here for Drew here on YouTube.com. Welcome to episode 6 of the Drew podcast. Episode 5 was a port over from the other channel, the review of the Woke Game Awards. Hence why we're passing over your traditional episode 5 of the Drew podcast. Mostly also because this podcast on this channel is now going to cover gaming and everything else. Because I recently had come to the conclusion that I was going to be better off putting as much content on this channel as I can, while just playing the games on Drew Games instead, and only that over there. So with that being said, welcome to the first co-branded gaming, non-gaming edition of the podcast, since we tried to do this on Drew Games and it made no sense to have non-gaming content over there. With that being said, joining me as usual, Desert Nord on the phone. Hey, bro.
Hey there.
This is an interesting situation for the podcast now, blending all the content back together again.
Yeah.
So with that being said, on today's show, we got a bunch of gaming stuff. I don't have anything written down outside of gaming, so we're just gonna kick shit around that pops into our head after we get done with the headlines. So we're gonna talk about Sony removing Cyberpunk from their online store, as well as offering refunds, and Microsoft doing the same. Sony discontinues the PS4 Pro. Okay. CD Projekt is now embroiled in a class action lawsuit with its investors over Cyberpunk 2077. Games with Gold has been announced. PlayStation Plus hasn't yet. So we'll get into the free games with Games with Gold for January of the new year. And UK Parliament is pushing to try to prevent scalpers from scalping shit, which is a good thing in my opinion, but we'll get more into that when we get there. So obviously we're going to be starting with Sony removing Cyberpunk 2077 from the PSN store, and they were the first between Sony and Microsoft to grant full refunds, no questions asked. Even though when you filed for the refund of the digital version on Xbox, you had to answer the question of why you filing this. So questions were actually asked. And then Microsoft followed suit with the refunds, but aren't removing it from the store, so, which you would expect because they have the marketing rights to Cyberpunk. So anything to add, bro?
Yeah, it just looks like basically not really a recall, but more of a financial apology. But I can only imagine that the investors got screwed harder than the customer, but the customer got screwed pretty good.
Well,
on this one.
I think it's safe to say everyone just got fucking screwed in general.
Yeah, and it was all, tons of lies, tons and tons of lies. This game is not worthy of the market. It doesn't compare to games that were made even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
When it comes right down to it.
So,
as far as the effort put into the design, it is absolute crap.
So with it getting pulled from the Sony store digitally at this point, obviously not physically, because you can still buy it physically for PS4 in stores, should you choose to. Should you be a sadist and want to suffer at this point?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that.
well, I would not recommend buying it in its current state. Period.
Yeah, definitely.
But digitally, does this mean that this has to mean that this is a temporary digital version exclusive to Xbox then for console.
Yeah, I guess.
Because you can only buy it digitally on Xbox now.
Yep.
So, digitally, Cyberpunk isn't exclusive to Xbox. Haha.
Yeah, retroactive exclusive.
Did you think that we were ever going to have to say this about Cyberpunk, that one form of it is going to be exclusive to any console?
I didn't think we were. I thought it was going to be all over the place. I thought it'd be on every platform, and it would be,
Well,
I thought they had put so much work into it that it would be good, but I was way off.
Well, it was digitally, and now it's not. Now it's only not on PlayStation.
Yeah.
Digitally. It's still on Steam, it's still on Xbox, it's still on Stadia. God help us.
Yep.
The buggiest game of the year is on the buggiest place you can fucking play it, Stadia. Think about that, folks.
Yep.
Don't worry, I'll wait.
Yeah. It doesn't help that that system is badly designed to begin with.
Yeah. Speaking of, I'm just going to pass over the PS4 Pro thing for now. CD Projekt Red, because of lying to the investors, is embroiled in a class action lawsuit because of it. And also recently it's come to our attention that apparently some people that work at CD Projekt Red, the development studio for CD Projekt, because CD Projekt being the publisher, kind of like Bethesda Softworks is the publisher, Bethesda Game Studios is the developer. Same situation here.
Yep.
But apparently there's a big kerfluffle with developers pissed at the executives at CD Projekt.
Yep.
And rightly so.
And this thing has been a tit for tat between them since the word go, practically, because the investors wanted to see profit, which, I mean, at a certain point, you can't really blame them. Yeah. But they are the ones that caused the rush. And they're the ones that made them push it out, despite the fact that any gamer who plays it, who's really paying attention, will notice, oh my god, this thing is a wreck. The tiny details are not there. This game is more lazily put together and rushed than probably any game ever. Yeah. So, with all of this said, there is going to be an update to the Game of the Year nominees amongst us to talk about. Cyberpunk is not going to be there. It will be being replaced by something that I potentially will be playing in the next few days, because I've also recently purchased Hades for the Switch that I got to play too before we film the Game Awards on Monday. I got 3 games to play in the next 4 or 5 days. So, yeah, to say the least. And that also includes, tomorrow I actually plan to play some Yakuza Like a Dragon on Drew Dat Games. Well, on Twitch, and then port it over. Because it's on Xbox, and Xbox hates fucking Google, and I don't blame them. Yeah, I never thought I'd say this, but I actually do think that I think that Yakuza is a better game than Cyberpunk, all told. Well, I did get back into it last night before I started porting everything over from the other channel to this one. And then I'm at a point right now where I was told to head over to Shangri-La Hotel or whatever the hell it is. And then, because there's an issue over there, the guy standing out there is like, this is really big, really important. I need you to get a plunger. What? Yeah. So now I gotta go combing through the city for a fucking plunger now. And I lost it. I just laughed uncontrollably for 5 minutes at that point. Therefore signifying that I needed to go to sleep. But that wasn't happening because I had to go to work a few hours later. Yeah. But yeah, the thing about it, bro, is that and as soon as I got to that point, I knew that I gotta stream playing the rest of this game. Yeah. I was gonna say the thing about it is that it is a game that actually has an interesting storyline and a lot less glitches than Cyberpunk.
And from what I'm seeing, it's got some fucking funny moments, like.
Sure, yeah.
Because I went to the hotel thinking that someone's shooting up the place. The owner made a deal with a gang that he needs help with, type of thing. No, the toilets are plugged.
Yeah.
And you want a Yakuza for that? Not a plumber? Alright.
Yeah.
Talk about a shitty job. So, anyway.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. So, anyway, C Project Red, getting sued by the investors, and rightly so. Hopefully this will lead to good change at the top going down.
Yeah, I mean, you would like to hope that CD Projekt Red will sit there and say to themselves, you know what, guys, we really screwed this up. We have got to do everything in our power to make this right and better.
So,
and that's with everybody. And maybe they don't have the ability at this point because they threw too much chips in on, something that they got in over their head with.
So speaking of questionable decisions, but back to Sony again.
Yeah.
Discontinuing the PS4 Pro in a time where no one can get a PS5 because reasons that have already been said, but I will get into them because recent content has been disappearing from my platform here, so I will reiterate it now. Scalpers have been scalping the fuck out of the PS5. Retailers don't seem to give a shit, to the point where when stock comes in at the store, like at the store I work at, our website does not update with any indication that any stock is available. Yet we still sell through it, God knows fucking how. And yet Sony, in their infinite wisdom, decides you don't need a PS4 anymore because the PS5 is out. On what fucking planet?
Yeah, it's really bizarre.
In a time where people are told, stay home, don't go out, what are they going to do? Play games. What are they going to play them on? Well, if they want a PS4, fuck you now. And if you want a PS5, fuck you too.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the bizarre move that Nintendo made with the remotes for the Switch.
Yeah.
Again, a move that still, to even now, it still doesn't make sense. I don't get it even now.
Which means the only thing you can really buy on any consistent basis is the Switch. So... Yeah. And the best part of the Switch is you don't have to stay in one place of the house during COVID. You can actually take it out of the dock and then go to your kitchen, go down to your basement, go out to your garage, and keep playing like Hades, for example.
Yeah, it's kind of like, bro, it's kind of like the answer to the joke or the punchline of the joke that we were asking ourselves before.
Yeah.
whether or not the Switch is going to reign supreme despite the best efforts of Microsoft and Sony.
The answer at this point is a resounding yes.
Yeah. I was thinking well, this is definitely a golden opportunity for both of them to outdo the Nintendo Switch. But what happened? Quite the opposite, actually.
Yeah. No one can fucking buy the systems. You can only buy as is currently at Target on store shelves, as I saw when I left work. We have Switches on the shelf.
Yep.
There's no Xbox Ones anywhere. There's no PS4s, obviously. You can't find a PS5 on any site at this point, or a Series anything console. The only thing you could go get from the store is a Switch, so go get one. And there are games that are available Xbox and PlayStation on it, like NBA 2K, God help you if you want that. Skyrim, The Witcher 3 is on it somehow. Go figure.
Yeah.
And then there's console exclusives like Hades, which is the best indie game of the year. So the Woke Awards tell us. But once I get to playing it, which ought to be soon, in the next day or so here, or in the next few hours, hopefully, I'll be able to say one way or the other on my own opinion on it then, at that point. But with the PS4 Pro getting discontinued, what are your thoughts? What are
it really doesn't seem like a smart move, but hey, what do I know?
Yeah. So, now, on the one hand, I know some people are saying in the comments, hundreds of millions of people already have one. Who's going to buy one? Some people could still be holding out to even now to get one.
Well, I mean, people need to replace them occasionally.
And that too. Case in point, I did earlier this year get a PS4 Pro to replace the standard PS4 that I have in a box somewhere now.
I mean, it's not like they're cars or something.
Yeah.
They don't all do exactly the same thing.
That's true.
And I mean, yeah, there's model years and shit, but we don't have model years in gaming.
No, it's like model every 7 years.
I mean, if they released a new model of these systems every year, so that we called it the 2016 model, the 2018 model, the 2020 model, then I could understand why they would put away the old model and bring out the new one. But that's not how it works.
Well, between the launch and pre PS4 Pro, there were different models of PS4s, but they discontinued the previous model though. Like you were saying.
I'm just saying, they're not regularly released enough. Yes, they put out a whole bunch of different versions of a given system when they release one, but those take time, and they never really, I mean, it's like they pull everything back all at once, or put everything out all at once, in a lot of cases. So, you're either going to make the big move to the next gen, or you're going to stick with the old gen. That's just how we operate in gaming.
Yeah. So, speaking of games, let's talk about some games right now. Games with gold for January 2021 have been announced by Microsoft. And for Xbox One, we're getting Little Nightmares from January 1st to the 31st. Also for Xbox One, Dead Rising from January 16th to February 15th. So you'll still be able to downloading and play that on Valentine's Day. That's a fitting name for Valentine's Day game, Dead Rising. For the Xbox 360, The King of Fights, January 1st to the 15th, and for the original Xbox, Breakdown from January 16th to the 31st. Any thoughts, bro?
Yeah, well, I guess it should be interesting. All these offers, though, that they've got at the very end of the year kind of defeat their own purpose.
And this is the start of the new year.
Yeah.
For these. But, like I've said off camera, like last night, when the offerings are all games that I either haven't heard of or have never played, it's the opportunity to play something new.
Yeah.
Although, the headline of this is obviously Little Nightmares.
Yeah.
Because that's a fairly well-known game compared to the rest of these things. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the people that like to try new things, even if they're not necessarily highly rated.
Yeah.
Just to say they did.
So for free-to-play Friday, I can only see playing Little Nightmares here.
Yeah.
Because
definitely not a lot of greatness to pick from there.
Yeah. We'll see what PlayStation does, or whenever the hell they finally allow the information out into the public, which means that at the time of the recording of this, we're going to have to probably talk about that next week then.
Yeah.
And then potentially compare them. So, anything else to add before we get to the final gaming topic to talk about?
No, nothing to add to that.
So UK Parliament evidently is pushing for scalping legislation after scalpers on eBay make a reported, I think it's probably higher than this, but $28 million on PS5 and or Xbox Series X consoles.
Yep.
I'm glad somebody's finally taking notice because retailers aren't. And they're the ones that should be.
Yeah, ticket item scalping is very ethically questionable at best.
On top of retailers, you know who else should be taking obvious exception to this? Sony and fucking Microsoft. So.
Yeah.
Because when a console is just sitting in some asshole's basement collecting dust, waiting to be sold for like $3,000, guess what, Sony and Microsoft? You're not getting anything on that. Nobody's buying games digitally on it, and considering that all consoles are sold at a loss, you're only losing money. You're not making anything back on those consoles, sitting in some asshole's fucking garage.
Yeah, and I mean, they don't make money on the consoles to begin with. So,
yeah, it's all on software. And software is not being bought on consoles sitting in boxes in fucking garages and attics. So, apparently Sony and Microsoft are fine with losing money now, apparently.
Yeah.
And you wonder why Nintendo's kicking your ass now with a less powerful system.
Yeah, because at least people can fucking get one.
Get one.
You know, that's kind of a big part of it.
Yeah. And guess what? People are buying games digitally on it, like I did with Hades last night. So.
Yeah, I mean, what's the use of having millions or even tens of millions of copies of your system in circulation if the half or more of them aren't technically circulating?
Yeah.
They're just idle, waiting to be, scalped out, basically.
Yeah, I think
it's just the platform, the console makers should be pretty pissed about it.
Yeah.
But they don't seem to care much, so I guess it's nice to see somebody cares.
Yeah, and unfortunately, once again, as a libertarian, breaks my heart to say this, but it's the government that cares in this case. Which normally don't give a shit. They give less than a shit than Sony and Microsoft and retailers normally. But for some reason, UK's government gives a shit.
Once again, bro, it's like another one of those times where bad behavior begets, having to be controlled.
Yeah.
Well,
the same thing went with loot boxes and games.
It's only necessary because people misbehave. I mean, really.
Yeah. Circa 2017, EA with Battlefront 2 loot crates. Which that's still an ongoing thing, even now.
Yeah, and so, I mean, you scalpers, you gotta make a living, yada yada, blah blah blah, but you're ruining it for everyone else.
Yeah.
And forcing the hand of the government, essentially, to protect the regular consumer who's getting hosed by you guys.
So with that said, to close out the gaming portion of the podcast, I am gonna quote a philosopher, as I see him. He was also a comedian, George Carlin. It's all bullshit, folks, and it's bad for you.
Yeah.
So with that...
I would definitely say that government action in this case does suck and is unfortunate. And
yeah.
The fact that I wouldn't call it necessary, I'll just call it appropriate.
But that's it. But that's just the thing. The parties that should care don't, Somebody has to. And now that's it. We're in this room where we're going to have government intervention and shit where it shouldn't be.
Yeah. I would prefer that people just, like, voluntarily stop doing that dumb shit and then wondering why there's consequences to it.
Yeah.
It should come as no surprise that when you do shit like that, you're going to generate an equal and opposite reaction in the other direction.
Yeah. Speaking of an intervention, the season finale of Star Wars Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Which this thing raises a lot of questions, and questions that are good this time around. Now, if you haven't seen it, I would say don't watch the rest of this right now. And if you haven't seen it, what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
So with that said,
definitely the show has gotten way more interesting the last few weeks.
Yeah, have you watched any of it?
Well, I've seen clips. I obviously don't have,
then you know about the big cameo, the big reveal of one character at the end of the last episode.
Yeah, quite.
Yeah, so 3 more seconds before spoiler for it. 2, 1. Luke Skywalker.
Yep.
Saves Grogu or whatever Baby stupid Yoda's name is at this point.
Yeah, Grogu.
Yeah.
And I saw a meme about that, which was funny too.
And that's another thing. When the name of Baby Yoda got revealed, I went through several names that would have been better, like Poda.
Yeah.
Which is a playoff of Yoda. Joda. Which I think I like Joda better.
Well, you remember, the way the Knights of the Old Republic handled this concept.
Yeah, and then there was Vindar. So, how about
Vindar?
Yeah, how about Kindar?
Well, I mean, it should be of a similar phonetic, but not necessarily like rhyming.
True, but instead in Lucasfilm's Infinite Wisdom, which they don't have any of, obviously, they decided to rip off Goku from Dragon Ball Z.
Well, here's what's silly about that. They went from, with Yoda, you have, basically a Spanish phonetic, or what you might call High Latin, and then you move to Vendar, which came later, obviously, which is also borderline Latin, but high Spanish, of course, in between Latin and Spanish. And then they did Grogu, which is like Greek. So what the hell are they thinking?
I don't know who decided that. Whoever did should maybe go take some medicine because they need some.
I mean, I'm obviously not anybody's language expert here, but
yeah, shouldn't
you at least make it seem phonetically similar?
In theory, yeah, but Baby Yoda's name aside, The Mandalorian is clearly the high point of Star Wars at this point. And rightly so.
Bro, you remember on some of the other material that was added for Knights of the Old Republic involving the Wookiees of Kashyyyk, right?
Yeah.
Well, they were able to keep a common phonetic with all of that, and it was really, really brilliant.
Yeah.
It's almost like actual Star Wars fans created Knights of the Old Republic, but everyone creating Star Wars content now has no concept.
From what I understand of the team that BioWare had at the time, it was filled with Star Wars fans, so there's your point right there.
Like guys that would actually read the guidebooks for the languages in Star Wars and read into George Lucas's writings about what he was referencing so that they could follow the reference and make it seem linear. That's what they did.
From the documentary of the creation of the Knights of the Old Republic video game that I saw, that's exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, and it was really nice, and the continuity was there.
Yeah. But anyway,
I don't know where they're going with this stuff.
Well, I know that with Grogu or whatever the hell his name is, Baby Yoda,
Yeah.
going off with Luke, there are questions that need to be answered, and good questions in my opinion. Like, does this mean that Baby Yoda is at the temple when Kylo Ren decides to destroy it and kill everybody?
Well, you know they.
And
It's so silly. It's all so silly.
and if that's not the case, then that suggests that Disney is indeed retconning the whole sequel trilogy, stripping it straight out of the canon and flushing it down the toilet where it fucking belongs.
Yeah, well,
So,
I can definitely agree with the retconning of that because it needs it.
yeah. And
I
then
mean,
there's
my God, the context they gave us in those films is just shit.
and then there's
You know?
idiots on Twitter seemingly bitching about that Luke Skywalker and the Mandalorian is not Luke Skywalker.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
First of all, to any fucking moron on Twitter that says that the Return of the Jedi Luke isn't Luke Skywalker and that the Last Jedi Luke is Luke Skywalker, you are a fucking idiot. So.
Oh, yes, of course. The real Luke Skywalker would definitely kill his nephew. Oh, definitely.
And yet, before doing that, save a baby from certain death.
Yes. I've seen the hilarious comparisons. Like, yes, despite his father literally ordering the destruction of planets and the killing of literally trillions of lives, he still sees good in that character. But because he had a flash forward to maybe Kylo turning dark, he's just had to kill him. Who writes this dumb shit?
Kathleen Kennedy's friends?
Yeah, I'm mocking it at this point, but yes, it needs retconning because the context sucks, and it doesn't make any fucking sense in the context of what we already got. Like, you can retcon the original trilogy all you want, it doesn't make your movie better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the thing about it is, when you retcon the original trilogy, which is what the sequel trilogy did, you've already ruined things with your new thing. So when someone comes along and says that new thing is the problem, guess what? It's because the new thing came after the original thing.
Yeah.
Meaning you didn't fix anything, you ruined things. You know?
Yeah.
When somebody builds a nice house and a guy drives his car into it, that's not him fixing things, that's him ruining things.
Indeed.
Kathleen Kennedy apparently thinks she fixed the original trilogy somehow.
As if it needed fixing.
Yeah, somehow to her it needed fixing.
But then again, I'm willing to even say that about the prequels at this point, as if they needed fixing at this point compared to what we had gotten in the last however many years.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, the sequel trilogy makes the prequels look like Shakespeare practically.
Yeah. Then what did they make the original trilogy look like?
Yeah, well, it makes the original trilogy look like it was written by God himself.
Well, some Star Wars fans would call George God anyway, so.
I'm being hyperbolic, of course.
Yeah, and for the record, I'm not one of them because he is human. He does make mistakes, and he is an idiot at times.
The quality gap is like the Grand Canyon times 10.
Mm-hmm. But there is one thing that I can't in good conscience criticize about George Lucas, and he's an epically great storyteller.
You would need an ICBM to reach from one side of the quality gap to the other.
Yeah.
Where the sequel trilogy lies compared to where the original trilogy lies.
Yeah, so with that said, Disney had announced a whole ton of fucking projects coming too. So, of those projects, what are you most interested in as a Star Wars fan?
Well, I do like that they are perhaps giving proper respect to the character of Luke finally, after doing so much crapping all
Yeah,
over it.
because there's a rumor for a Luke series.
Yeah, which would be really refreshing, because, dude, that's all we ever freaking wanted from the sequel freaking trilogy, was just to find out what Luke does after defeating the Empire. Jesus, was that so hard? And all they gave us was shit. Destroyed his character, destroyed everything, his morality, his faith, his strength, his everything. It's just gone.
And then gave us a movie about Han Solo's Kessel Run.
And Rey being super because she's super, no other logical reason.
And completing the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs.
Oh yeah, well, they did some Han retcon too, but
yeah.
Like, I don't think most people's criticism is that they ruined Han. I guess some people would say that. But the big criticism is they ruined Luke. And they ruined Leia.
Well, I think in just killing Han outright, that doesn't really count.
No, I know. It doesn't. I don't think they ruined Han. They just kind of made Han seem essentially meaningless. Like, his value in the story is gone.
Yeah, because he was overly macho male, and you can't have that.
Yeah, you can't have a confident problem solver, pragmatist guy who's essentially a cowboy who gets the job done. You can't have that in their story. Oh no, that guy is cancerous to them.
Well, he was my favorite, and still is in many cases outside of Luke.
Sure, he'll remain one of the best cowboy-type characters in cinema history. They did no favors.
I'm willing to say he's the best cowboy character in cinema. But that's just my opinion.
Well, nerd cinema, yes.
But if
you say all cinema, then you're talking down John Wayne, and I don't really want to talk down John Wayne here.
And there's another thing about The Mandalorian that I do want to bring up that's been rolling across the internet. People saying that playing Luke in the season finale was Sebastian Stan. From my understanding, that's wrong.
Yeah.
From my understanding, that was just that Lucasfilm or whoever used their computer magic to make the actor that played Luke in it look younger, and that being Mark Hamill.
Uh-huh.
The only person that should be playing Luke in the first place, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, that's because of the visible similarity, you know?
Yeah, and
a lot of us would be brought back into it and would be able to accept the concept that he really is Luke if he looks that similar. Then you'd say, oh, okay, well, then I'm just going to bypass the idea that it isn't him and just fall into the story as though it's him. You can do that when the character looks similar.
Well, yeah, and that's, I think, where people are coming from, because Sebastian Stan does have a similar look to young Mark Hamill, because he does. But
he definitely does, yeah.
But from my understanding, from the reports that I've been seeing, it's fucking Mark Hamill. They just made him look younger.
Oh, sure. Well, yeah. Realistically, the CGI is reverse aging, which is actually a criticism a lot of people have, because better-looking facial CGI has already been done, so why are they reverting back to the reverse aging tech when they could easily just start from scratch?
Yeah. And then just have Mark just do the voiceover.
It's not like they don't have actual tons and tons of camera footage of young Mark Hamill to work with. They do.
Mm-hmm.
So just use that.
Now, if they were to cast like Sebastian Stan as young Mark Hamill for the Luke Skywalker TV series, I probably wouldn't have much of a problem with that. You?
No, I wouldn't have a problem with that either.
Because they look very similar.
Yeah.
So it would be believable that Sebastian Stan would be Luke at that point.
Sure, it'd be an artifact that you probably would just you'd overlook.
Yeah.
It'd be so easy to overlook.
But
as long as the character is written correctly and behaves as you would linearly expect from the character we saw in the original trilogy, then you could say, aha, this is Luke. I understand his motivations. I understand his history. I understand his feelings. I can understand him completely, and I'm watching him do exactly what I would expect him to do given all those factors. That's what brings you back into the Luke, into love with Luke.
No, when I was watching the final closing moments of that episode of The Mandalorian, I was convinced that it wasn't Ahsoka Tano because of the previous episode where she said that she wasn't willing to train him because she sensed great fear and great darkness within Baby Yoda. Right?
Yeah, where have I heard that crap before?
But still, she was not willing to train him. So for people to think that, for an instant, it might have been Ahsoka, first of all, I have faith in, what's his face? Jon Favreau and his continuity with what he works on.
Yeah, usually he cares and does things correctly, usually.
Yeah, and when he does something somewhere, he usually holds to it throughout his creation, as he did here. So I knew it wasn't Ahsoka. For a moment, I thought, for just an instant, I thought, well, before we ever saw that, like the lips and whatnot of the half face with the hood up, while the fighting was going on with the droids. Up until I saw that, I'm like, could it be Mace Windu? Because that's who I'm expecting at this point.
Yeah.
Right? Because...
Yeah, well, I mean, it could. I would think that any character that would feel that way about a prospective, trainee or Padawan has got to be someone that is in some way not a pure light Jedi.
Yeah, and Mace would have been perfect at that point.
Yeah, and I think we all know that Mace had a little bit of something else there in his character.
Well,
because he was perfectly willing to engage in combat with the Emperor.
Yeah.
Not that he was the Emperor at the time, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
He was just the Senate.
With the entire Senate, yeah.
Yes, he was the Senate. I love those memes. But anyway, overconfidence is something that, like, say, Master Yoda doesn't have per se. He's tried to conquer his overconfidence. He tries to be humble and wise. Whereas Mace got in over his head essentially because he was overconfident.
Yeah.
Now, everybody he came with got killed immediately too, by the way. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah, I did. I've watched Revenge of the Sith a lot of times.
Yeah, wasn't it Kit Fisto that just totally biffed it, basically?
Mm-hmm.
They were all overconfident, and they all got, essentially bent over and killed. Mm-hmm. So,
Right.
They all had a little bit of training left to do.
So with Ahsoka obviously not being it, for an instant I thought it was Mace Windu until the lower half of the face was revealed during the fighting sequence. I'm like, it's either who I think it is or it's a new Jedi entirely.
Yeah.
And I would be fine with a new Jedi entirely being played by like Sebastian Stan, because that was the rumor going around the internet that was Sebastian Stan playing a Jedi in this scene, right?
Yeah.
But then Hood came down and we saw that it was young Luke Skywalker. I'm like, okay, I hope Sebastian Stan isn't doing this right here, because this should be Mark doing this. And from what I'm hearing, it actually is Mark. So.
Sure, they simulated young Mark's face.
Yeah. Well, onto his body. So.
If they're gonna sustain that type of thing long term, though, they really should think about hiring Sebastian Stan as the guy. They really should think about it.
Yeah, they really. Yeah, which is why I've said that for the Luke Skywalker series, Sebastian Stan should be the one doing it if you want to keep that series going for a long time.
Yeah.
Because as distasteful as it is, and as much as it's going to break my heart, Mark isn't going to be here forever.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, he's already an old man, essentially, so I mean,
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot left to give there, unless you're going to do a series where, like, very old Luke. I mean, but what's left to even tell about that old Luke story with the sequels around? The sequels ruined the character in his older years.
Or since your discussion now has gotten my creative juices flowing, how about this
Yeah.
for the Luke series? You have old Luke in
Yeah.
it, but
I mean, here's what I'll say, bro.
can I finish my thing
The sequel
first?
trilogy
Okay.
ruined Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
That's what it did.
Yeah. There's no disputing that. We all know that.
So, I mean, it's perfectly unoffensive to me to hire a guy that looks pretty much like him to play young Luke Skywalker.
Which is why I'm trying to go down. Which is why I'm trying to go down a very specific path here.
Yeah.
For the Luke Skywalker series, you have Mark playing old Luke in it.
Yeah.
But the series is not about necessarily Luke. It's about his relationship with his son.
Yeah, well.
Played by, drumroll, Sebastian Stan.
Yeah.
That would be a good decision as far as I'm concerned. And a highly logical one.
Yep.
Because then Sebastian Stan could be playing like Jake Skywalker. I don't care. The real Jake Skywalker, I might add, not the fake one that the dipshit that made The Last Jedi tried to portray.
Yeah, it just reminds me of my bewilderment.
Or better yet, Luke being played by Mark Hamill, his son being played by Sebastian Stan. The son's name Han Skywalker. To be named
I guess.
To be named after his best friend Han Solo, or Ben Skywalker after his master. Because Ben is more believable. It's more believable for Luke to name his son Ben and not Leia to name her son Ben. It would be fitting for Leia to name her son Obi-Wan, right?
Yeah, perhaps, I guess.
Or for Leia to name her son after her adopted father.
Yeah.
Bail. So then Kylo Ren should have been called Bail Solo.
It would have been quite good, wouldn't it?
It would have been better. This is what you and I need to be writing at Lucasfilm and not these fucking SJWs fucking everything up.
Yeah, well, or they could have like here's a basic litmus test. Do you actually like Star Wars? How much do you know about Star Wars? Can you pass a Star Wars info and knowledge test? If you cannot, and you don't, get out of my office.
I was going to say, can they pass one? And I was about to say, fuck no.
I'm just saying.
Can I?
These are basic things. They need to stop hiring people because of their intersectionality and start hiring people who care about the damn series.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to end well. It doesn't end in a lot of money for you people that don't know how to write. It doesn't end in a lot of money for you. It ends in joblessness and you posting on Twitter that you're unemployed again.
Well,
that's what it ends in.
Well, in the case of The Mandalorian, we do have the head of The Mandalorian creative. He actually has been a lifetime Star Wars fan, and that being Jon Favreau, so...
Yeah, well, John's not the problem here.
No, he's not. That. He's part of the answer at this point.
Yeah.
The only problem is that...
a lot of the other people alongside John give little pieces and parts. See, I've always said this before. Now, I don't like saying positive things about Rian Johnson, but if Rian Johnson had simply been the effects guy on The Last Jedi, there would have never been a problem. But because they put him as the damn writer, it's why everything went to shit.
As well as the fucking director.
As well as the fucking director.
Yeah. So
when he was nothing, as far as good talent goes, he's nothing but an effects guy. And he's good at effects. He really is. He's good at doing effects. But he is not a writer of this material. He is not a producer. He is not a director.
This is how the whole... This, in my opinion, is how the whole sequel trilogy should have gone. The head writer, George fucking Lucas.
Yeah.
The head effects guy, the stupid dipshit that you were just talking about.
Yeah.
The director, any one of George's friends. That being,
Well, of course, you know the best director to be involved with Spielberg, of course.
I was just about to say Spielberg, because they're good friends.
Yeah. But that was never going to happen again, so we have to exclude that concept. We would go with maybe Zack Snyder.
Or, considering his relationship with George, we could have also gone Dave Filoni being the director for all three sequel films, too.
But Filoni's had some mistakes here and there. He's not perfect by any means.
But he's far from a Rian Johnson. That's obvious. When it comes to his creative direction, at least.
Yeah.
And
That's true.
And when he does throw stupid shit in it, it's kind of believable at this point.
Yeah, Filoni's not offensive per se. It's just
he's just misguided at times.
A little disappointing, maybe.
He's just a little misguided at times.
Uh-huh.
But still, I still stand by Johnson being the effects dude. George writing the whole damn fucking sequel trilogy himself. And directing it is whomever George wants. Preferred is Steven Spielberg.
Yep.
But I would even be willing to accept George taking on a guy who probably hasn't directed a ton of stuff that I can recall. And that being Jon Favreau, directing the whole sequel trilogy.
Yep.
That would be the best case scenario at that point. But we can't change the past. We can only... to borrow a line from the sequel trilogy,
yep.
Kill it if you have to. And we do.
Yeah, it's almost like Kylo's directions for what to do with the sequel trilogy were given to us in the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, which is very, very fitting. So
let it die, kill it if you have to.
If you guys see shaking right now, I apologize for that. There's a train going by.
Must be loaded with a lot of stuff, huh?
Yeah, because normally it doesn't shake that much, because I'm like 500 yards, maybe 1,000 yards from the fucking tracks.
Yeah.
Give or take. Either way. So it shouldn't be shaking.
Anyway, as far as our Star Wars conversation here, bro.
Yeah.
There's still remains a lot of people that are still interested in good Star Wars writing and good Star Wars content.
And some of them are coming in by way of The Mandalorian at this point, so.
But the bad stuff has got to stop.
Yeah, well, we'll see what 2021 brings. Since we're almost there.
I mean, I feel bad for Star Trek fans right now.
Well, I feel bad for a lot of fans of fucking things like Doctor Who, Star Trek, and hell, I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, and I see bad clouds coming right now.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely a storm gathering on that one.
Yeah, which means that there's going to be reason to ignore Lord of the Rings for the foreseeable future. Which I kind of was, because there wasn't anything new in years, so.
I would like to think that now we're pretty weary and aware of when we see shit coming ahead of time, we go, yeah, I'm not watching that.
Yeah.
We're no longer getting sucked into lies anymore.
Indeed.
At least, in the movie realm or in the film realm.
Or pretty much anything for me at this point now.
Well, I mean, we just got sucked in a little bit into the video game realm, but I'm just saying that
it's easier to get sucked into that than the movies.
Yeah.
But like I've said about Cyberpunk, say what you want about the overall experience of the game, but when you want to throw like inclusive narrative-based shit into it, and it be believable and not offensive, not alienating to any group of people, see, Project Red pulled that off in spades.
Well, sure, but that's a really, really sad goal to have to try and achieve.
Yeah, and that's seemingly the only goal they achieved with it was the narrative. Everything else is a fucking disaster with it.
Yeah.
So,
and here's the other thing, bro. I mean, if you're going to tell people, hey, our game is immersive and revolutionary and totally going to change the way people play games, you can't release a piece of garbage like this saying all that.
You can say that when you release a game like Dreams, though.
Oh, sure, but then,
I'm just saying.
Dreams didn't come with near the type of fanfare as this did.
No, it didn't. It has been built up naturally because people started playing it.
Yeah.
Or should I say creating stuff to play in it, or to watch in it, or to listen to in it.
Yeah, it's because Dreams couldn't be anything other than organic. There's nothing else to it but organic. Yeah. Whereas Cyberpunk was nothing but hype. And I mean like 98% hype, 2% game.
All flash and no substance. Well, actually, I should really reiterate that. When it comes to the narrative of the game, it's all substance.
Yeah.
And all flash.
Yeah, nobody's really criticizing the way it looks. I mean, the graphics, because that's what they cared about most, apparently, was the graphics. And nobody's criticizing the storyline or how it's written or any of that.
Well,
it's just this game was designed by people who apparently don't know how to program video games.
Well, apparently, a lot of people are criticizing the graphics on PS4, so...
Yeah, well, I'll give them that, I'm just saying.
And it got pulled from the store, so...
Yeah.
But it's still available on Xbox if you want to suffer with me.
Yeah, and what we know, though, a lot like with what happened with movies, too, is that whenever the graphics were very, very, very overhyped, suddenly you saw other things completely collapse in importance.
Yeah.
With the developer. Like, with, people saying, oh, The Last Jedi looked great. Like, but... massive but, maybe the biggest but in all of film history.
Mm-hmm.
The writing is crap.
Indeed.
So I'm saying, but with Cyberpunk you have, it looks pretty, and the writing's fine, but, biggest but in gaming history, it doesn't even play right.
Yeah. So, with that being said, I think we'll start closing this thing out at this point. What have you been watching lately?
Oh, well, I was just watching the comparison video between Cyberpunk and GTA 5 and laughing my ass off about the differences and how much better GTA 5 is than Cyberpunk.
Was it the PS3 version that you were watching? Ha ha.
Well, maybe not, but I'm just saying that just everything from the way the physics, well, especially the physics is like the core of the problem, but the effects, the interactions with people are so much worse in Cyberpunk than, I mean, you can stand on a person in Cyberpunk, bro, and they don't even care. That's dumb.
I've yet to stand on a person since I last played it. I've experienced a number of more glitches, like I've told you off camera, like falling through the scenery, my car is floating, the motorcycle floats, people randomly disappear and appear as if they're fucking lost souls.
Yeah, so if you can get the game to play long enough to go and try and jump up on somebody, you'll notice that when you jump up on somebody's head or shoulders, you'll find they don't even care. Try that on GTA 5, and you're getting in a fist fight.
And then there's a quest where you have to go around into fighting rings and fight people for like money and whatnot, right?
Sure.
But I did that with one character, and I'm currently going through that with another character in the game right now. And I just did a fight that I did with a previous character, which is the first fight with the twins, but it's supposed to be the same person, just two different bodies, right? I punch one of them down. I go after the other. I knock him out. I turn back towards the other one. He's still laying on the ground like he's unconscious, but he still has his health bar. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to punch you down on the ground now. This is an easy fight.
Yeah, basic glitches like that should not be in Cyberpunk, but they are.
So I won a handicap match that was more like a one-on-one match.
I mean, I'm half surprised that in that fight they didn't glitch out and get stuck in the ceiling or something.
I'm surprised.
Or fall out of the scenery altogether, but not die, so that you basically can't even complete the fight because they've fallen out of the scenery.
I'm surprised that I didn't punch one once and then it go flying through the air like you do in Skyrim when you get hit by a giant, screaming, "It's not a slide!" Anyway.
Yeah, where you punch him and you're like, holy crap. You look at your fist, you know?
Yeah. And he goes flying across the map like you occasionally would do. And that's another thing. I got thrown into the fucking river on my motorcycle because a car ran into me.
Oh, yeah. I bet you noticed the sinking physics in Cyberpunk is really stupid, too.
Yeah. You just flat out sink. Period.
Yeah, it's like you're falling through air.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a second air layer. The physics don't change from air to water.
It's very easy to drown.
I can't figure that out.
It's very easy to drown in Cyberpunk, I'll tell you that right now.
Oh, that's true, too. It's like no one knows how to hold their breath underwater.
Well, no, it's like no one knows how to swim on the surface.
Yeah, that too.
And because of it, you struggle to stay on the surface while trying to swim out of the fucking river where your bike is now in. And then you have to find a way to get to a ladder, climb up it, get back to the street, call your bike back. Surprisingly, it comes. Eventually, like 2 years later. And then you try to continue driving to the quest that you were trying to get to out in the Badlands, which is what I was trying to do.
Reminds me of some of the jankiness from Assassin's Creed, the first one, which was a beautiful game, by the way.
Yeah.
But, like, gets hit with knife in head, keeps running, falls in water, immediately dead.
Yeah, well, at least V knows how to survive in water for a little while.
Yeah.
Unlike Altair, who didn't whatsoever.
Yeah, he touched water and he's dead.
Yeah, water to him is kryptonite. Anyway.
Yeah, the water is lava.
So, how did the comparison between GTA 5 and Cyberpunk go then for you?
Oh, well, it's night and day as far as the physics go.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk looks good, but the physics are terrible. I mean, the physics make it look like a game from 20 years ago. Like, you'd find better physics in PS1 games.
Well, the reason that I was mentioning GTA 5 on PS3, because that was the system I played it on when I first played any GTA game for that matter.
But yeah, GTA 5 looks like an absolute masterpiece in the physics department compared to Cyberpunk.
Yeah. And in my opinion, the PS3 port of GTA 5 is arguably better looking in certain spots than Cyberpunk on any platform at this point.
Which, combined with Red Dead Redemption 2, puts Rockstar firmly in the throne chair, doesn't it?
It would seem so.
Now that Cyberpunk has thrown CD Projekt Red out of the chair.
Which is sad to say, because look at what Rockstar does with GTA Online. Fucking full casinos in a time where people hate slot machines in games. So.
Yeah.
And that's who's on the fucking throne.
Not perfect, but when comparing them.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, we have a king who's always asking for more money.
Yeah.
But, to be fair, said games look better than anything that we ever get, so. And play better than we ever get. However, I don't much care for GTA 5, though.
No, I don't either. It's not even remotely my favorite game or anything like that.
Because I did not care for the 3-character main story fucking thing.
Yeah.
Because I prefer games where I'm playing through a character's storyline.
Yeah. It's not that there's nothing to criticize about GTA 5. There's plenty.
Yeah.
But as far as the physics and how it looks and how it plays, it's like they should have talked to each other. You know?
It's like the main story of GTA 5 was specifically designed for people with ADD.
If GTA 5 and Cyberpunk could just get together and have a baby, that would be excellent.
Yeah. Well, as we did previously on the other channel, the best game of the 8th gen is Red Dead Redemption 2. So.
Yeah.
So.
And Lord knows we consider that basically a masterpiece of a game.
And I gotta get back to playing it still.
Yeah.
I still haven't finished it. I'm still like only an hour in because I got sidetracked by everything else that came out since. And I believe,
yeah, you have a lot to do.
Well, even now for 2021, still there's like 4 or 5 games right now. 2 sitting under the tree, 1 sitting under the TV that's currently in the system, that being Yakuza, and then 1 digitally on the Switch, which won Jeff Keighley's Game Awards, Best Indie Game, Hades. So yeah, so I got a lot that I'm going to be playing over the next few days, and some of it I'm actually going to be streaming, like Yakuza here soon. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be doing Yakuza Like a Dragon. Tomorrow I'm going to be opening the 2 games under my Christmas tree, which are Christmas presents here on this channel tomorrow. Because tomorrow night, because tomorrow night's Christmas Eve and whatnot. And that being Immortals Phoenix Rising and Saints Row Remastered, which one or both of those I'm going to attempt to play on stream as well. Leading up to filming of the Drew Dat Game Awards here on this channel, which will film Monday and will go live on hopefully January 1st, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, hopefully.
And we gotta refigure out what game of the year is at this point, because Cyberpunk obviously is getting removed. For obvious reasons, because the only reason I threw it in there initially was on a previous video on the other channel, for you guys to vote for what you pick as game of the year in the comments. 2 people watched it, no one fucking said anything, so that's when I went, fuck it, we'll just choose it ourselves at this point. So that's what we're going to be doing. But now with the other games I gotta play, there's probably a Game of the Year nominee in one of them, so more than likely. And the leading candidate for that at the moment is what I've been playing a little of, and that's Yakuza, Like a Dragon. So we'll see what happens with those. With that being said, we're at about 110 minutes. That's what I'm going to be up to. What are you going to be up to after this?
Well, I have some Christmas presents I have to wrap. And some games I gotta get into on my phone or whatnot. And I was trying to watch some more material from different streamers and video YouTubers.
Yeah.
But yeah, just normal pre-Christmassy stuff.
Speaking of streamable stuff, like I said to you in a text message, when you get a Switch, one of the first games I want you to get is Among Us, and then subscribe to Nintendo Online so we can play that together.
Yeah.
Because I look forward to see how many times you stab me in the back.
well, there's always the strategy with that game, so.
Yeah.
It's one of them games, bro.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've watched a ton of streams of them, to the point where I can probably play the game if I have to with one eye shut at this point.
Yeah.
And I haven't really played it other than on my phone at the time for like one session. Yeah. But personally, I would prefer to play this on Xbox, but it's not on there. So should it ever come out on there, I'll get it, because that'll be the place to play it because of Party Chat. Because Nintendo doesn't have that, so.
Indeed.
Get with the times, Nintendo. Get with the times. So with that said, that's all I got. Do you have anything else before we get out of here?
No, I didn't have any other gaming news or anything.
Okay, so like I was saying, next time unboxing of the Christmas present games. Playing some Yakuza soon, and among other games on Twitch to port over to Drew.Games for you guys. And we'll see what happens from there, other than the Game Awards. Old content from the other channel will be going up live on this channel in spurts throughout the week, so stay tuned for all of that. Everything from unboxing of games that I previously done, like Star Wars Squadrons, Yakuza Like a Dragon is either has gone live on the channel or will shortly, for the unboxing of that on this channel, that is, obviously. And yeah, so ton of content coming all week long, going live on the channel. Stay tuned for all of it, guys. And then as we get into 2021, I'm going to continue doing unboxing of games. Obviously, this podcast talking about Star Wars, gaming, and anything else that comes to mind at that point that we feel that we need to talk about. And anything else after that. Oh, and
let's not forget to say Merry Christmas to everybody.
I will in just a second, as well as is it worth it? The next episode I will be filming will be for Yakuza Like a Dragon. I completely forgotten that I hadn't done that yet. But I need to play more of it, and I will be doing that soon. But you'll be seeing a stream before I do the filming of Is It Worth It for that game. With that said, I hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas. Although I will be saying this tomorrow night anyway, when you guys see me on the channel in the first place. And when you guys see this, it will be on Christmas Eve. So with that said, Merry Christmas Eve, guys.
Yep, Merry Christmas, everybody.
And we'll see what if I do any streaming on Christmas or not. Who knows? We'll see. But all I can say is just pay attention to the channel on the off chance that I do wind up doing that. With that said, Merry Christmas, good night, good evening, Happy Hanukkah, and all things in between. With that said, see you guys in the next one. Fuck Naughty Dog. Thankfully, Star Wars is making a comeback. And fuck Sony. Later, guys.